Hi, I'm Martin Kleynhans. I'm here on Signal Hill in Cape Town. In this episode of About Trail, we're going to talk about the weather. The first question we received was, why should we be concerned about the weather when going for a trail run? The weather can be really dangerous, especially in high mountains, where you can be exposed to either extreme heat or cold. That could mean that you could either die of, say, heat exhaustion, or cold of hypothermia, or get badly hurt, requiring you to be rescued. So the ultimate aim of this is to make sure that you already know what the weather's going to be on the mountain before you leave your house, and to make sure that you have the correct kit with you. The next question we received was, where can I go and get information about the weather before going for a run? We're really lucky to have the amazing resource of the internet, and there are numerous really good websites which give you good forecasts on top of high mountains, so not only at the bottom but at the top, which is what we're interested in. So what you want to check for is the wind and how strong it's going to be, if there's going to be any rain or maybe even snow, and if it's going to be really hot or really cold. Another resource is to talk to the locals about the conditions on the mountains. This is especially useful if you're not familiar with the mountain range that you're going to be running in. Their local knowledge can be really useful to give you information on how the weather could well be when you're up there, typically for the season or for what the weather forecast is predicting, because they'll be able to take the forecast and be able to possibly tell you in better detail what it really will be. The other resource that you have is your own experience. If you are lucky enough to live in an area with mountains nearby and you run on them a lot, you will then become very familiar with them and how they are, and you can look at the weather outside of your window and decide what the weather will probably be like up on the mountain. And using that, you can actually in advance tell what kit you should take on the run, whether you should actually go on the run at all, because it might be really dangerous, whether you can risk going alone, or whether you should rather take a buddy with you to make sure that you will be okay. The next question we received was, what things should we consider when preparing for a run in really hot weather? So usually when we think about extreme weather conditions on mountains, we think about the cold, but we must also remember that the heat can be extremely dangerous as well. If we know it's going to be hot on our run, then we must plan accordingly. That means checking where our run will go and where the water points are, and to make sure that we have enough water on our run to get us through the run and for us to be comfortable. Also to make sure that we have the appropriate clothing, and that would include a hat. And the last thing is to consider running at a more appropriate time of day, like in the evening or the morning when the sun is lower. And likewise, what things should we do when preparing for a run in really cold weather? When we go running in the cold, we want to make sure that we have the right kit with us to keep us warm in the cold, and that includes kit that will keep the rain out, kit that will keep the wind out, and keep us warm. That kit would include a pair of long tights or long pants, a rain-proof, windproof jacket, and some sort of base layer that will keep you nice and warm. When we know that the weather is going to be really bad and really cold up high, then we should actually consider changing the route of our run by bringing it lower down to a low altitude where it's going to be much warmer, and also much closer to civilization where help is much closer at hand. And then finally, if you're going to be running in bad weather, it is not really a good idea to run on your own. You should take a friend, preferably 2 friends, because then you've got that 3-person party, which is always the golden rule for high mountains. The final question we received was, what should we do if we find ourselves underprepared in really bad weather conditions? If you find yourself in a sticky situation in the high mountains in bad weather, then the first decision you need to make is how you can get out of this situation as quickly as possible. That could mean going back on the way you came, or going forward, or taking some kind of shortcut that'll get you off the mountain, because that's what you want, to get off the mountain. If, however, you cannot get off the mountain, then you need to find a place that's going to keep you as warm as possible, and that's preferably a place that's out of the wind and out of the rain. If you've decided to find a warm place and to wait out the weather, then it is a really good idea to call mountain rescue as well and to chat to them. They'll be able to give you good advice on what to do, where to go, and if they decide that it's dangerous, they'll come and fetch you. If you're going to be running in bad weather, then you should really not be pushing the boundaries. You should rather run well within your experience in those kind of conditions. Be cautious and be prepared for what you can expect up there.